Good morning, folks. How are you? What a great day it is today. The 1st of September in New Zealand, 2013. It's the first day of spring. But it's also another important day. It's Father's Day today. This is the day when all the sons ring up and daughters ring up their father and wish them Happy Father's Day. I've had my first phone call from one of my children, a young fella, Mick we call him. He rang up and wished me Happy Father's Day. And I would say he's my favourite son because him and I have a real bonding together. We worked together once doing some logs in Ashburton when the big storm in 1975, and we've spent 12 months together as logging contractors for the council, and we had a great bonding. And so Mick rings me up this morning and says, "Good morning, Dad. Happy Father's Day, Dad. I adopted the little fella when he was only little because his other father, his real father, didn't want him, so I adopted him. Bloody good bloke. But anyway, I've got other kids too, and I've got another son because Mick's got a brother called Gus, and he lives out at Pleasant Point. He's got the steam on in out there, and he's a good son of mine too. I adopted the two boys together because the father didn't want them, and I married their mother, Margaret, and they're bloody good boys. By Jesus, I couldn't wish for better sons, you know. And I've got two great daughters as well. I've got Kerry and Timaru here. She's a postie. And we've got Sharon in Australia, in Melbourne. She's married to a doctor of philosophy, Dr. Peter Van Dyke. But I'm very lucky to have four beautiful kids. Geez, to think that I came down here on the South Island with just a suitcase and a handpiece and a car, and now I've got four wonderful children. Okay, and a beautiful wife. We've been married nearly 50 years. In February we'll be married 50 years. And we've all fought like hell. We've had the real family arguments, like all families do. Fight like bloody hell. All going for pecking order. But anyway, it's great life, isn't it? You can't have, there's no perfect father-son relationship or father-daughter relationship. There's always going to be some strife. But at the end of the day, when it's all boiled down, I know that my kids will never leave me. And I'll never leave my kids. I love my kids and they love me. So I'm one of those very fortunate people, I suppose. Let me tell you about my own father. My own father was a bloody good bloke. He's one of these. He had to struggle. His mother and father died when he was very young. There was quite a few of them in the family, and when the father died, they were only about 12 or 13, and they had to fend for themselves. And Dad had to go out getting work, shearing sheep, and working in sawmills and sorts of things like that, fencing, and Mum had the money. She was a Wilson. She had all the money, and they bought a farm. They bought a farm, and in a place called Korokanui, on a hill, a mountain called Mount Piriaka, just out of Timaru. And that's where I was brought up till I was about 10 years of age. The first 10 years of my life was there. And I remember Dad, a bloody good worker, milked cows, and we had a few sheep as well. But a bloody good bloke, but he had a problem. He was a gambler. He was a compulsive gambler. He loved racehorses. He trained his own racehorses, and he went to the TAB, and he backed on racehorses. All his life he was a racehorse man. Give my old man the radio and the TAB, that's all he wanted, the radio and the TAB. And listen to the races. But a bloody good father. I'm lucky to have such a good father. But something about my father that I got a bit of a shock one day. There was 7 of us in the children. He had 7 children. And one day, a younger brother, the youngest one was Kevin. I told you I shot my other brother, didn't I? 11-year-old. When I was 16, I accidentally shot my 11-year-old brother. But he had another brother called Kevin, and he was the youngest of the family, 7 kids. And we had an old Ford V8 car, Dad had, and I'd been living in the South Island, and I went up to North Island, and I looked in the back seat of the car one day, and here's my father cuddling my young brother, Kevin. He was cuddling him. Now, I can't remember my father ever cuddling me, but here he was cuddling my little brother. Now, it's something I remember, and we all have these memories about our father, don't we? We all have the memories. We all have times when we're jealous in families. I was lucky. I was part of a big family, so we have to fend for ourselves. I wasn't I always feel sorry for some people who are their only child, and they get spoiled. But I was lucky. There were 7 of us, and we had to work hard. I remember having a fight with my brother once. And my brother Bill, like another brother, he's called Bill. We call him Bloody Bill. But anyway, him and I had a fight. A real ding-dong go. Because we were fighting over the pecking order. I was the boss. I was the oldest boy. And Bill was the second oldest. And we had this fight. Fist fight in the kitchen. And I thought Dad would have broken it up, but he didn't. He stood there and watched the whole fight. Because I gave my brother a hiding. Black eyes and ears and all that. And then he had to go to rugby in the afternoon and told everybody that I gave him a hiding. But that was the way the old man was brought up. You know, he had his fights too. He had a lot of fights, my old man. Because that's the way it was in those days. You fought for pecking order. Okay? Yeah, my old man was a gambler. Always at the TAB. Always go to the races. He used to come home. He'd go to the races. And he'd come home and he'd fill his pockets up with coins. And he'd jingle these coins. I can remember him standing there in the lounge. Jingle the coins. He's just come back from the races. In other words, he made lots of money. And we were always going to get an ice cream or something. And he used to take me in the pub, in the Timaru pub in the North Island. And I was only a little kid, crawling around the floor, and I used to pick up all the coins. Because in those days they had a big round bar, you see. Everybody went to the pub. They had 6 o'clock closing, and on the Thursday was sale day, and after the sale they'd go to the pub. And it was 6 o'clock closing, and everybody had to be out of the pub by 6 o'clock. So from about 5 to 6 for an hour, they sat there drinking as much beer as they could in the hour before closing time. And I used to claw around on the floor amongst all the men's legs, picking up the coins that fell on the floor. Mum would be out in the car, in the old Vauxhall car, with the kids, with the sisters, drinking a raspberry drink and fish and chips, you know, waiting for the old man to come out of the pub. But that was our life, and it was good. You look back and I'd do it all over again. But today it's all different, isn't it, eh? No pubs at 6 o'clock closing now. But yeah, I've had a great life as a father. I've been a father and I've been a son to a father. And I'm very lucky that I've had good fathers. I know there's some fathers, some sons don't even speak to their father. I remember once I wrote a story about a man and he loved his kids. I wrote his life story and I went to his son, one of his sons, and asked him if he'd give me a donation because I wanted to publish his story. And he said, no, I haven't spoken to my father for 20 years. Now, how could you do that? How could you not speak to your father for 20 years? Look, if you haven't got a good relationship, I want to talk to people now, especially the ones that are adopted. There's a lot of children out there that are adopted, and some don't even know who their father is. But you've got to just put it behind you. Whatever happened in the past is gone. Look, we can't change what happened yesterday. I did some videos yesterday, and I was very growly on some of those videos. But it's done, and I can't change it. I said some stuff perhaps I shouldn't have said, but it's done. It's over. Okay? You can't change what happened yesterday. And another thing that you can't change other people. You can't change other people. A lot of people get married and think, well, he's not very good, but I'll change him. You can't change other people. The only person you can change is yourself. When things are not going right in my life, whose fault is it? My fault. Because I'm the only one I can change. I've got to change my thinking. When things go wrong, it's the way I've been thinking. Everything that happens to us in our life is based on what we think. And if we think bad thoughts, bad things are going to happen to us. I could talk to you for a long time about this, about the thinking. And that's what I do. I'm a professional motivational coach, and I teach people self-motivation schools. So that if you've got a relationship with your father that's no good, that's not working, change the way you think about your relationship. Start imagining the way you would like it to be. And say to yourself every day, I have a great father. I have a wonderful father. I love my father. I don't care whether if he lives in squalor and he's a boozer or whatever. I don't care what he's like. Love your father. You'll only ever have one father. And change your attitudes toward him. Say you love him. Go and tell your father now you love him. Why not? It's Father's Day. You only got to do it one day a year. I'm not saying you got to love him every day. But one day. Get on the phone now. Look, pick the phone up. Ring up your father and say, Happy Father's Day, Dad. Can you do that? Doesn't matter whether it's your real father or your stepfather. Ring him up and say, Happy Father's Day, Dad. He'll love you for it. He's not going to ring you. You have to ring him. You see, you can't change your father. You can only change you. I can't change my father. I can't change my sons. I can only change the way I think about them, my attitude towards them. Hey, Father's Day, spring in New Zealand, 1st of February 2013. What a great day it is out there. And I'm going to my daughter's for lunch. She's putting on lunch for her father. This is the oldest one, Kerry. She's lovely. Okay? So I'll see you later. I'm going to have a wonderful lunch, and I'll see you tomorrow morning with more stories and the true stories in the life of Ronnie B. And Ronnie B is me. See you later. Bye-bye.